everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Becca and this is my vlog channel where I talk about all of my hobbies besides plants. And today we are doing some Christmas DIYs. I love doing DIYs every holiday season because it gets me like in the mood for that season, and it also gives me something to do for that season because I like having, you know, a variety of crafts to work on. So we have 3 DIYs to work on today, and they all are sort of different in their own ways, and I'm really excited to show them to you. So first we're going to start off with a little snowflake cushion that was inspired by Pottery Barn. So if you've seen Pottery Barn's holiday collection, they put out some very cute pillows, as they did for Halloween as well. But I really fell in love with the idea of a snowflake pillow. So I drew up a pattern, and I'm gonna have that linked in the description box below, just for you to reference for this. But let's get into the process of how to DIY this fuzzy snowflake pillow. So as I mentioned, this is a pattern that I created, and you can download it through the description box link. And it is a little bit wonky to assemble, but as long as you have all the lines lined up, everything should be fine. Like as long as the shape doesn't look crooked. I don't know, I definitely could have fixed it, but I was just like, you know what, it works, and people can be intuitive and figure out how to align it correctly. Anyway, it's a real doozy to cut out, and I will say I probably should have made this like a half and half type of pattern where you cut on the fold. I'm sure that maybe if you're good at document stuff, you could alter the pattern for yourself to do that, whatever you want to do. Basically, it's just a little bit difficult to cut out. It's a bit tedious, but I did the front in this like really fuzzy, soft fabric. I think that I bought it from Joann. I think they sell it as like a Sherpa fabric. And the back, because I was not about to cut it out again in that Sherpa fabric, I just used canvas that I had from curtains that I had hemmed before. And then I took it to the sewing machine, and it's basically a lot of curves and shifting around the foot, you know, lifting up the foot, turning the entire piece to get those curves just right. And I ended up leaving one of the sections between the 2 arms open so that I could flip it. And it wasn't a very big hole, but it was big enough to get my hand into, which made it a lot easier when it came to stuffing it. But yeah, sew away, and then I'll show you what we're gonna do next. Anytime I sew with this puffy fabric, I like to have a pretty big seam allowance, so I end up cutting away a lot of it at the end because it's a lot easier to flip it inside out. The shapes just look a lot better, but I do the larger seam allowance because the fabric is so fluffy, it's sort of hard to see where it's starting and where it's ending. So if I just do like a 1/2 inch seam allowance, I'm pretty much guaranteed to catch the fabric every time. There was only one small section that I ended up having to do a little bit of an extra stitch after the fact, like when I flipped it inside out, which was not a big deal. So what I did was I flipped it completely inside out. I took out 2 of the arms first, and then I just sort of pulled out an arm at a time, and I ended up using a chopstick to get those corners just right, and it looks a little lackluster at this point, but then as I was stuffing it and it was coming to life, I was feeling a lot better about it. I will say that I think that this is probably smaller than the Pottery Barn version, but if it was any bigger, I mean, I guess if it was a little bit bigger, that would be fine, but I prefer the size. I think it's really cute, like a little addition. It's not really like a pillow, it just kind of sits next to other pillows, you know what I mean? But I really like it, and what I did was I stuffed each of the arms first, and then I stuffed the center, and then from there I used the chopstick to push the stuffing into the arm section, like the section between the arm and the middle, so that there wouldn't be like a crease there. And then I just closed it up with a little running blanket stitch type of thing. Super easy. And it turned out so cute and cozy. I think it looks so cute on top of these throw pillows that I already have. I'm gonna have different throw pillows out for Christmas, but I think it looks really cute. It's like a neutral Christmas look with these 3 pillows. It's beautiful. It turned out way better than I thought. I really was not sure if this would turn out good, but it did, and I'm so pleased. All of these shapes They're a little wonky, but it's a snowflake, so what do you expect? So if you've been following my channel, you know that I am recently into quilting, and my latest quilting obsession is the star quilt, and they look a little something like this in a quilt form, but then I saw this ornament as just a freestanding ornament, and you achieve this just by folding some tubes of fabric together. So I figured that would be a lot easier of a way to achieve this beautiful quilt star shape without the hassle of sewing it all together. So let's see how you can make this Danish star ornament. The first step for this project is picking out fabric. I chose to make my stars with 2 different types of fabric for each star. You can do 4 different types of fabric, or you could have just 1 type of fabric. It just depends on the look you're going for. But I like to iron everything out just to make sure everything is nice and flat. And once you have all of your fabric selected and ironed, you're going to cut them out into strips that are 12 inches long and 2.5 inches wide. Mine that I cut were actually 11 inches long, and I felt that they weren't long enough, so I'm telling you, do a little bit longer. And what you do is you fold them right sides together, and you're going to stitch along that line that I marked on the screen, and then sew them all down. And then once you have all of them sewn, you're going to flip them inside out. You can use a loop turner for this. You can use a bodkin. I just ended up using a safety pin because it was right there. I'm just pinning the fabric into the safety pin, and then I just slide the safety pin into the tube, and then I'm sliding the safety pin all the way down to the end. And the fabric is going to bunch quite a bit, but just take it slow and you will eventually get through. And then once you can grab the safety pin on the other side, just pull that fabric right through. Super simple. Once you have all of your loops turned, you're going to need to press them so that they're very flat. And this is important because I think that if you did this with paper, it would be a lot easier. But because it's fabric, I think it's super important that it is super flat. And what we're going to do next is we're going to fold them almost halfway up on itself. So you're almost folding it in half, but not quite. And I'm finger pressing them at this point, but I am also going to use my iron to make sure this line is extra crisp. And you're going to do this with all 4 of your pieces. Now for the assembly of these stars, I think it's going to be really helpful to watch and then maybe listen after because it is a little bit confusing. So you're going to have one piece straight up and down. Then you're going to put the second piece perpendicular, sandwiching in that first piece inside of it. You're going to do that every single time. When you add a new piece, you're sandwiching it inside perpendicular to the last one that you put in. Okay. However many times you need to go back and watch this, do it, because I know that it's a little bit confusing. So for this last one, you're putting it perpendicular to the third one that you put in, laying it flat. And for this one, you're going to grab the shorter end and you're going to toss that through the loop of the very first piece of fabric. And then once you've done that, you can tighten everything up. Don't overly tighten it, but you definitely want it to be snug so that you're getting as much length out of these strips as possible. And once you have the snugness down, you're going to flip it over. And there's a flap right here that's just sort of loose. So that needs to get tucked in to that loop as well. And once that's all tucked in, you can tighten it even more if you want. Next step is we're going to lay down the long side. So you have the long side up right now. You're going to lay that down across the piece for each one. And you need to go in like a counterclockwise or clockwise motion because this last one is going to have to be tucked into the first loop. So the same thing that we did with the other piece when we were tucking, you're tucking it into the first loop to help secure all of that in. And you can tighten one more time, but now here comes the part where we're folding the actual points of the star. So we're folding in a 45-degree angle, so you're pulling that strip off to the side to be a 45-degree angle. If you've ever done origami, it's very similar. It's basically origami with fabric. And then you're going to flip it over and fold it over 45 degrees again, and you have like a little like sailboat type of thing, and then you're going to flip that on top of itself and then tuck in the tail of that fabric into the loop that is directly underneath it. So if that seems confusing in any way, feel free to rewind or watch this next process. I think I do this one a little bit faster. You're going to flip it after you've made that first 45 degree, another 45 degree, and you're going to toss that on top, fold it in half, and then tuck it in. And I ended up using a chopstick to like help put this in there. You could just use your fingers, but my loops were pretty small and I wanted it to be precise. So go ahead and keep doing that until you've finished all of them. I will say I found that by pressing after every fold, it was a lot easier because it wasn't moving as much. And if you ever are in a situation where your strip is a little too long, you can just cut it. Like, especially if you did 12 inches long strips, you're probably going to run into that. But that's definitely better than not having enough fabric, because the other ones that I made, I ran out of fabric a couple of times, and it's easy to fix just by shifting things around, but it's not fun. So I'd prefer to have extra, you know what I mean? So keep doing that all over the star. And then once you're done, that is your star. You can put a little ornament hook on it. You can sew in a loop, however you want to do it. I haven't quite decided what I want to do, but I know that they're going on the tree. I think I'm just going to end up putting an ornament hook on them, but they are so cute and so fun to make. And I think they'd be so much easier with paper because paper folds so much easier, but fabric, I don't know, fabric is really fun. So however you decide to do it, I'm really excited to see your Danish star ornaments. You can see I did a few different varieties with different colors. So depending on your Christmas aesthetic, or if you're making this for somebody else, their Christmas aesthetic, I just think these are so fun. And if you wanted to make these like with kids or bring them to a holiday party, I think that would be so much fun. All you'd have to do is prepare the loops, and then everybody can sort of go off and do their stars on their own. I just think it's such a fun little DIY to do with friends to fill up your Christmas trees. And lastly, let's talk about how you can make this beautiful crochet paper chain. This is such a fun DIY, and it's actually not completed at the point that I'm filming, but I have done quite a bit, so I'm going to show you how I'm doing it. This is a project that I've just been working on while I'm watching TV in the evenings, and I do a couple circles every day, and I've built up this much, and I think this is just a really fun project to perhaps do with friends so that you can all maybe do a different color and you're all adding in, or maybe your family members, or maybe it's just like me, it's a solo project that you're doing in the evenings in front of the TV watching Christmas movies, being very cozy. I love slow projects like this, and this one is definitely like the definition of a slow project. And if you're doing any sort of road tripping this winter as well, like for, you know, going to visit family, this is the perfect thing to bring along because all you're going to need is yarn and a crochet hook. So let's get into how to do this crochet paper chain. For this project, you're going to need your favorite crochet hook. This is my favorite one. It's very comfortable. It's a 5mm H crochet hook, and then some scissors to cut the yarn, of course. And the actual yarn itself, I picked out green and red yarn, probably like the cheapest ones that I could find. I just wanted vibrant colors, and you can do like any colors you want. I've seen a lot of people do lots of different colors for these, but I like the cohesiveness of just the two. You're going to start off by doing a slip knot, and if you're not familiar with crochet techniques, I definitely suggest checking out a beginner video because I'm not going to teach really the basics here, but you're going to chain 7 loops. I recently learned that there are like several ways to crochet, which blew my mind, but I'm doing these the way that I learned, and that's by making a ribbed texture. So if you want to create a ribbed texture, you're going to insert your hook only into the back side of the stitch, like on the row that you're stitching. I'm going to have more visuals for that, but if you don't typically crochet like this, just crochet however feels comfortable for you because you're going to be doing this like thousands of times. So whatever way feels faster for you, I want you to do that. But what I'm talking about is this ribbed texture here. It's also a lot stretchier than another way that I'm going to show you in just a second. This is like very flat. This is a different type of crochet that I did not learn originally, but it's one that I recently learned about, and it's not as stretchy as you can see. But basically what I'm doing is I'm only inserting my hook into the back half of the previous row of stitching. And if you want a more flat look, not a ribbed look, you're going to insert your hook into the entire stitch underneath it. You're going to go where all of those dots are, inserting your hook underneath the entire stitch. And then here's a visual of what crocheting like that actually looks like. So I'm sticking the hook underneath the entire stitch, the previous stitch. And for me, this is way more time consuming, so I don't prefer this way, but if this is how you crochet, I mean, amazing. I did not know that people crocheted like this until extremely recently. Shout out to Natalie if you're out there. But it does make everything much tighter. So if I was doing clothing or like a scarf or anything like that, I would definitely want to do it this way. But for my purposes, I am just making a garland, so I don't need it to be super tight. So I'm just going to undo that and then continue on my merry way how I normally crochet. I'm also really bad at counting the rows as I'm going, so I just found that since I'm doing this like in a ribbed way, as long as I have 13 ribs, that is as long as it needs to be. So you can choose how long you want these to be, but if you're going 7 across, I'd say 13 ribs is perfect. And then I just loop it around the previous circle, and then I start to crochet these ends together. And all I'm doing is sticking my needle through both sides of this crochet piece and then looping over and crocheting over. That's not even the right words. Can you tell that I don't teach crochet things ever? I have no idea what I'm talking about. I know how to do it, but I do not know how to describe it. So anyway, you're just joining the pieces together. And once you get through all of the joining, you're gonna cut off the extra yarn, and then I like to just use my crochet hook to loop through everything. Like you could use a sewing needle, but I just don't want to do that. I'm just gonna use the crochet needle to sew in my ends, and then you flip it inside out and that seam is on the inside and you're never going to see it, and it's beautiful. As I've said, this is definitely something that is extremely time consuming, so start it now and maybe by Christmas you'll be done. I don't know, maybe you could do one every single day of the Christmas season, maybe a different color or something like that, to have like a 25 days of Christmas little paper garland. Anyway, I think that would be really cute and definitely something fun to involve more people in if you have more people around. All right, friends, those are my holiday DIYs this year. I hope that you enjoyed seeing everything that I was up to this year. There's definitely more that I'm going to be making, but these are the ones that I felt confident to do like a tutorial on. So if you want to see other DIYs that I get up to this Christmas season, you can follow along on this channel for the next month. I'm sure that I'll be showcasing some of the things that I make, and also just like showing projects as they are finished, because this one's gonna take me probably all season to get it to the length that I want. But it's really sweet because once this is done, I'll have it forever, like all of these DIYs. I just think that they're going to be wonderful staples in my holiday DIY collection. I love holiday DIYs, so if you enjoyed these Christmas DIYs, I would love to see your renditions. Make sure that you tag me on Instagram at DelaCreations, and yeah, show me what you make, and I'm super excited to see your renditions. And if anybody attempts the pillow, I'm curious to see how it goes for you, because that one was definitely the most tedious, but honestly, very rewarding. It's so cute. I love it so much. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to have you over here more often. You can turn on notifications so that you know when I upload. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Bye.